How Cadbury Dairy Milk is made. The complete process from cocoa beans to chocolate bar. Dairy Milk. The iconic purple wrapper crinkling between your fingers as you anticipate that first smooth, creamy bite. But do you know how that chocolate bar made it into your hands? You might be surprised by the journey it takes, starting with cocoa beans picked from farms far away and ending up in your favorite grocery store. Stick with me because today we're taking it from the first step to the last, packed with fascinating details you won't want to miss. If you're into food processing, factories, and behind-the-scenes secrets of how your favorite treats are made, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. A quick history of Cadbury Dairy Milk. From England to American homes. Before we dive into the factory process, let's take a quick detour into the history of Cadbury Dairy Milk. It all started in 1824 when John Cadbury opened up a small shop in Birmingham, England. He didn't start with chocolate bars, he actually sold drinking chocolate. By the 19th century, Cadbury had become one of the most recognized names in the chocolate world, especially after launching the famous Dairy Milk bar in 1905. Why was Dairy Milk such a game changer? It was the first time a chocolate bar contained such a high concentration of milk, which gave it a uniquely creamy texture and taste that set it apart from competitors. This emphasis on creaminess is what still makes Dairy Milk a favorite around the world today, including here in the United States. In fact, Cadbury Dairy Milk became so popular in the US that it's a staple on grocery store shelves nationwide. Even though Cadbury originated in England, its impact in the US has been significant. Over the years, the American audience has embraced this chocolate as one of its favorites, contributing to the massive global success of the Cadbury brand. The ingredients: cocoa, milk, and sugar. The foundation of great chocolate. Every great chocolate starts with great ingredients, and Cadbury Dairy Milk is no exception. The story begins on cocoa farms, mainly in tropical regions like Ghana and the Ivory Coast. These areas are known for growing some of the world's finest cocoa beans, and Cadbury relies on these beans to give their chocolate its distinctive taste. The cocoa beans are harvested, fermented, and then dried in the sun, which is an important step to develop their flavor. Once dried, the beans are packed into sacks and shipped off to Cadbury factories around the world, including those that supply chocolate to the US market. But cocoa isn't the only key ingredient. Cadbury Dairy Milk wouldn't be dairy milk without, well, milk. In fact, it's the inclusion of a lot of fresh milk that gives the chocolate its signature smoothness and creamy texture. In many factories, local farms supply this fresh milk, which is carefully tested for quality. Finally, we can't forget about sugar. Sugar plays a huge role in chocolate production, balancing out the bitterness of the cocoa and making the flavor sweet and pleasant. Cadbury uses sugar sourced from sugarcane and sugar beet farms, ensuring that each bar has just the right amount of sweetness. These three ingredients, cocoa, milk, and sugar, form the foundation of Cadbury Dairy Milk. Step 1. Roasting the cocoa beans. Once the ingredients arrive at the factory, the magic begins. First up, we have the roasting of cocoa beans. When the beans arrive, they're far from ready to become chocolate. They need to be roasted to develop their flavor. Think of it like roasting coffee beans. The heat brings out all the rich, complex flavors that we associate with high-quality chocolate. In Cadbury factories, this process is controlled with state-of-the-art machines that roast the beans at just the right temperature. If the beans are roasted too long, they can become burnt and bitter. Too little roasting, and the beans don't develop the deep chocolatey taste that we all love. The beans are roasted in large, rotating drums, which ensure that every single bean gets evenly roasted. This is a critical part of the process because the flavor of the roasted beans will directly impact the flavor of the final chocolate product. Cadbury's expertise in roasting is one of the reasons their chocolate has such a consistent, high-quality taste. Once the beans have been roasted to perfection, it's time to move on to the grinding process. The roasted beans are passed through grinders, which break them down into small nibs, tiny pieces of cocoa beans. These nibs are then further ground into a thick, liquid paste known as cocoa mass. This is where the chocolate-making process truly begins. At this point, the cocoa mass is rich and aromatic, but it's not quite chocolate yet. It still needs to be refined and processed further. Cadbury's factory machines handle this step with precision, ensuring that the cocoa mass is ground down into a super smooth texture. Next comes the pressing stage. The cocoa mass is pressed under high pressure to separate the cocoa solids from the cocoa butter. Both components are important for making chocolate. Cocoa butter in particular is crucial for creating that smooth, melt-in-your-mouth texture that Cadbury Dairy Milk is famous for. Step 3. Mixing the ingredients. Cocoa, milk, and sugar unite. Once the cocoa mass has been prepared, it's time to mix it with milk and sugar to create the creamy Cadbury Dairy Milk flavor. Fresh milk is brought in from local farms, and sugar is added in precise quantities to balance the bitterness of the cocoa. This step is incredibly important because getting the right balance of cocoa, milk, and sugar is what gives Cadbury Dairy Milk its signature taste. Too much milk and the chocolate becomes too sweet. Too much cocoa and it becomes too bitter. The ratio is key, and Cadbury has perfected this balance over decades of chocolate-making experience. The mixture of cocoa, milk, and sugar is blended together in massive vats, ensuring that all the ingredients are fully integrated. The result? A smooth, creamy mixture that is starting to look and taste more like the chocolate you know and love. Smoothing the mixture. Now that the ingredients are blended, it's time for the conching process. This is where the mixture is stirred and heated for several hours to create an ultra-smooth texture. Conching machines are massive, and they work around the clock to ensure that each batch of chocolate is as smooth as possible. Why is this step so important? Conching allows the chocolate to develop a finer texture by breaking down any remaining particles. It also helps to develop the flavor by allowing any unwanted acids to evaporate, leaving behind the rich, creamy taste that Cadbury Dairy Milk is known for. Depending on the type of chocolate being produced, the conching process can take anywhere from a few hours to up to 24 hours. The longer the chocolate is conched, the smoother and more refined the final product will be. Once the chocolate has been conched, it's time to temper it. Tempering is the process of carefully heating and cooling the chocolate to give it the perfect texture and shine. If you've ever noticed that high-quality chocolate has a shiny appearance and a satisfying snap when you break it, that's all thanks to tempering. During this process, the chocolate is heated to a specific temperature and then cooled down at a controlled rate. This allows the cocoa butter in the chocolate to crystallize properly, which gives the chocolate that smooth, glossy finish. In Cadbury's factories, tempering machines handle this step with extreme precision. If the chocolate isn't tempered correctly, it can end up with a dull appearance and a grainy texture. Not exactly what you want in a chocolate bar. Tempering is a crucial step that ensures the final product has the right consistency, appearance, and mouthfeel. Now that the chocolate has been tempered, it's time to mold it into the iconic Cadbury Dairy Milk bar shape. The tempered chocolate is poured into specially designed molds that give the bars their signature rectangular shape. These molds are precision engineered to ensure that every bar is exactly the same. The chocolate is poured into the molds using fully automated machines, which can handle thousands of bars at a time. The machines work quickly and efficiently, ensuring that each bar is filled to the exact right amount of chocolate. Once the molds are filled, they're passed through a cooling tunnel, where the chocolate hardens and takes on its final shape. These cooling tunnels are kept at a precise temperature to ensure that the chocolate sets properly. Too much cooling, and the chocolate can become brittle. Too little, and it won't set properly. By the end of the step, the chocolate has solidified and taken on the shape of the final Cadbury Dairy Milk bar. If Cadbury is making a variation of dairy milk, such as a bar with almonds or caramel, these ingredients are added during the molding process. For example, almonds are roasted and then added to the liquid chocolate just before it's poured into the molds. This ensures that the almonds are evenly distributed throughout the bar. In the case of caramel-filled dairy milk, the caramel is added in the center of the bar before the final layer of chocolate is poured on top. This ensures that every bite of the bar has a perfect balance of chocolate and caramel. These variations are produced with the same level of precision and care as the original dairy milk bars, ensuring that every version of the product meets Cadbury's high standards. Once the chocolate bars have cooled and solidified, they're ready to be packaged. The packaging process is fully automated, with machines wrapping each bar in the iconic purple wrapper that we all recognize. The wrappers are designed to protect the chocolate from light, heat, and moisture, which could affect its taste and texture. In fact, the packaging is specifically engineered to ensure that the chocolate stays fresh, even if it's sitting on the store shelves for a while. After the bars are wrapped, they're packed into boxes and prepared for shipping. But before they leave the factory, there's one more important step: quality control. Quality control is a critical part of the chocolate-making process. After all, Cadbury has a reputation to uphold, and they want to make sure that every bar meets their high standards. Once the bars are packaged, they go through a series of automated checks. Machines scan the bars for imperfections, such as air bubbles, cracks, or uneven shapes. Any bars that don't meet the standards are discarded or melted down to be reused in the next batch. But the quality control process doesn't stop there. Factory workers also perform random taste tests to ensure that the chocolate has the right flavor and texture. After all, machines can't taste, so it's up to the experts to make sure the product is up to par. Once the chocolate bars have passed the quality control checks, they're ready to be shipped out. The bars are packed into boxes and loaded onto trucks, which transport them to distribution centers. From there, they're sent to stores all across the United States, ensuring that Americans from coast to coast can enjoy their favorite chocolate. The logistics of distributing chocolate are complex, especially when you consider the need to maintain temperature control during transport. Chocolate is sensitive to heat, and if